Have you ever been so scared of speaking in front of people that your heart feels like it's going to jump out of your chest? What if I told you that once upon a time, I was just like you, terrified of speaking English in public? But now, I can stand confidently and share my thoughts with anyone. Want to know how I did it? Stick around because today I'm going to tell you my story. Welcome to English Tone. Hello. My name is Ophelia, and I want to share an incredible journey with you. It's a story about how I learned to stand in front of a crowd and speak confidently in English. When I was younger, I could never imagine doing such a thing. I was so shy and nervous that even answering a question in class made my heart race. I often thought, how do people stand up and talk so easily? It felt like a superpower I would never have. But then something changed, and I decided to face my fear. It wasn't easy at all. I made mistakes, felt embarrassed, and wanted to give up so many times. But with every step I took, I learned something new. Slowly, what felt like an impossible challenge turned into one of the most exciting and rewarding journeys of my life. This story isn't just about me. It's also about how anyone can learn to speak confidently, no matter how scary it feels at first. So, let me take you through my journey and show you how I turned my fear into my strength. When I was 12 years old, my family and I moved to a new country. Everything there felt different: new streets, new faces, and a new language. My new school was big and beautiful, with friendly teachers and classmates, but there was one big problem. Everyone spoke English. I could read and write a little in English, but speaking? That was a whole different story. Whenever I tried to speak, the words felt heavy, like they didn't want to come out of my mouth. Sometimes I would forget how to say something, or I would say the wrong word. It was embarrassing, and I felt like everyone was secretly laughing at me, even though no one really was. Instead of speaking, I stayed quiet most of the time, hoping no one would notice me. One day in class, our teacher, Ms. Carter, walked in with a big smile. "Class, I have an exciting project for you," she said. I sat up straight, curious about what she was going to say. "We're going to do presentations," she announced. "Each of you will choose a topic you love and talk about it in front of the class." The word presentations echoed in my head. My heart started racing, and my hands felt cold. I didn't hear the rest of her explanation because I was too busy worrying. How am I supposed to talk in front of everyone? I thought, what if I forget the words? What if I make mistakes? What if they laugh at me? As the other students around me started discussing their topics excitedly, I just sat there frozen. Speaking in front of the class in English felt like climbing a giant mountain. I didn't think I could do it. When I went home that day, I could feel the weight of my fear pressing on me. My mind was racing with thoughts about the presentation. As soon as I walked through the door, I saw my older brother, Daniel, sitting at the kitchen table. He was busy with his homework, but he noticed my face and immediately knew something was wrong. He looked up from his papers and raised an eyebrow. "What's wrong, Ophelia?" he asked, his voice full of concern. I didn't even try to hide how I felt. I slumped down in a chair beside him, and with a sigh, I said, "I have to give a speech in class tomorrow, but I'm scared. I don't think I can do it. I can't even speak English properly." Daniel put his pen down and smiled at me, as if to say, "It's okay, I understand. Everyone starts somewhere," he said kindly. "You don't have to be perfect right away. Let's take it one step at a time." I felt a little better hearing that, but I was still unsure. Daniel always had a way of calming me down, though. He stood up and walked over to the shelf, pulling out an empty notebook. "Here," he said, handing it to me. Let's break this down together. First, write what you want to say in simple sentences. Keep it easy and don't worry about how it sounds. Once we have that, we'll practice together every day. I looked at the notebook in my hands and felt a little less overwhelmed. Writing was something I could do, and the idea of writing a speech seemed more manageable. I thought for a moment about what I wanted to talk about. How about the power of dreams? I said slowly, still unsure of myself. That sounds great. Daniel said, write down whatever comes to your mind. Keep it simple and true to what you believe. So, I started writing. I wrote sentences like, dreams help us imagine a better life. Dreams make us work harder. Without dreams, we wouldn't have hope. Each sentence was short and easy to understand. I focused on keeping the ideas clear so I wouldn't get lost when speaking. As I wrote, I felt a sense of relief. It was a start, and for the first time, I felt like I could do this. Every evening after dinner, Daniel and I sat down together. I would read my sentences aloud, and at first it felt strange. Some words didn't come out the way I wanted them to, and sometimes I had to stop and try again. It was frustrating. I would often stumble, trip over words, and feel embarrassed. But Daniel was always there, patiently listening and encouraging me. You're doing great, Ophelia, he would say with a smile. You're improving every time. Just keep going one word at a time. His kind words made me feel stronger. Slowly but surely, I began to gain more confidence. I started to speak more clearly, and I even began to enjoy the process of practicing. It wasn't easy, but with Daniel's support, I started believing that I could do it. I practiced in front of the mirror every day. It felt a little strange at first seeing myself talk, but I knew it was important, so I didn't give up. As I looked at my reflection, I imagined my classmates sitting in front of me, listening to every word I said. I imagined that they were all excited to hear my speech. Sometimes I would stand tall and try to speak clearly, just like how I saw confident speakers on TV. Other times I would practice sitting down, pretending I was in my classroom, trying to feel more relaxed. I paid attention to how my mouth moved when I said certain words, especially the ones I found tricky. I even made funny faces in the mirror to help me remember the words better. To make sure I was doing okay, I decided to record myself. I used my phone to record my speech and then listen to it again. At first, I didn't like hearing my voice. It sounded different, and I didn't like the way I said some words. It felt a little funny to listen to myself. But as I kept listening, I started to notice something. I was getting better. My sentences were flowing more smoothly, and I wasn't as nervous anymore. Every time I listened to the recording, I could hear improvements that made me feel proud. It was like I was becoming a better speaker every single day. Daniel, my older brother, also helped me with some tips. One day, while I was practicing and feeling nervous, he gave me a piece of advice that made a big difference. If you feel nervous when speaking in front of others, he said, look for someone in the room who is smiling. It will help you feel calm. I was curious, so I tried it the next time I practiced. I imagined being in a classroom and looking around at my classmates. Instead of focusing on how nervous I felt, I thought about smiling faces. It worked. I felt more comfortable, and my voice didn't shake as much. I realized that smiling people make you feel better and more confident. It was as if their smiles were giving me strength. From that day on, I always tried to imagine friendly, smiling faces when I practiced my speech. It made a huge difference. I could speak more clearly and with more confidence, knowing that people were listening to me in a positive way. Finally, the big day of the presentation arrived. I woke up that morning with a knot in my stomach. My hands felt sweaty, and my heart was beating so fast that it almost felt like it would jump out of my chest. I kept thinking, what if I mess up? What if I forget my words? What if everyone laughs? But I remembered what Daniel had told me the night before. Take a deep breath and speak slowly. You've got this. I took a deep breath, and as I stood up, I could feel my legs shaking beneath me. Walking to the front of the classroom felt like walking in slow motion, and my feet felt heavy as if I was carrying a ton of bricks. But I kept telling myself, it's okay. You can do this. Just remember your practice. When I finally reached the front of the class, I took another deep breath and looked around. Everyone was watching me, some with curious faces, some with friendly smiles. My mouth felt dry, but I knew I had to begin. I stood there for a second, holding my cue cards tightly in my hands. And then I said, hello, everyone. Today, I want to talk about the power of dreams. My voice was shaky at first, and I could hear a small tremble in my words. But I didn't stop. I reminded myself of what Daniel had said. Speak slowly. So I took my time, saying each word carefully. As I looked around the room, I saw Mia sitting in the front row. She was my best friend, and when she caught my eye, she gave me the biggest smile. That smile made me feel so much better. It was like she was saying, "You're doing great." I felt a little less nervous. I kept going, talking about how dreams can inspire us to be brave and work hard to reach our goals. As I spoke, I noticed that my classmates were really listening. Some were nodding their heads, showing that they understood and agreed with what I was saying. Others were smiling, and a few even looked surprised by the things I was saying. I felt a sense of pride in myself, knowing that I was getting through this. As I got closer to finishing, I felt more confident. My voice wasn't shaking anymore. I had remembered everything I wanted to say. When I finally finished, I looked up at the class, my heart still racing, but with a sense of relief. For a moment, there was silence, and then everyone started clapping. I couldn't believe it. I had done it. I had stood in front of the class and spoken in English without letting my fear hold me back. I felt like I was on top of the world. I had faced my fear, and it was gone. That moment made me realize that no matter how scary something might seem at first, if you keep trying and practice, you can succeed. After that day, I felt so proud of myself. I couldn't believe that I had spoken in front of the entire class in English without freezing or giving up. It was a huge accomplishment for me, and I realized something very important. It's okay to feel scared. Everyone gets nervous at times, even the most confident speakers. What matters is not letting the fear stop you from trying. I also learned that making mistakes is part of the process. If I didn't make mistakes, I wouldn't learn or get better. Every mistake is a step toward improvement. I used to think that speaking in English had to be perfect, but now I know it's not about perfection. It's about sharing your ideas with others, even if you make some errors along the way. The more you speak, the better you get, and the more comfortable you become with the language. What's most important is to keep trying and not be afraid of making mistakes. Now, I'm not afraid to speak in English anymore. I've become much more confident, and I even joined an English-speaking club. There, I practice speaking with my friends. We take turns giving speeches, telling stories, and sharing ideas. It's a fun way to improve because we all help each other. I've learned some cool tips from my friends in the club, too. One tip is to start with a funny story or joke to make people laugh. It grabs their attention and makes them feel more relaxed, which helps you feel less nervous. Another tip is to look at the audience while speaking. It might feel a little strange at first, but when you make eye contact with people, they feel more connected to you, and it helps you stay focused and confident. If I can do it, I know you can too. Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about practicing, taking small steps, and not giving up. So, if you feel nervous about speaking in English, don't worry. Just take a deep breath, try your best, and keep practicing. You'll get better every day. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I hope it inspires you to try something new and exciting, just like I did. And that's how I went from being terrified of public speaking to feeling proud and confident. Remember, if I can do it, so can you. Every step you take, no matter how small, is a step toward becoming a better speaker. So, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Keep practicing, and soon you'll be speaking English with confidence too. If you enjoyed today's story, please give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to share it with your friends who might also be struggling with speaking English. Leave a comment below telling me about a time you were nervous to speak and how you overcame it. I'd love to hear from you. And of course, make sure to subscribe to English Tone for more fun and easy ways to improve your English. See you in the next video.